Butterfly is a play by David Henry Hwang. The story, while entwined with that of the opera Madame a Butterfly, is based most directly on the relationship between French diplomat Bernard Borsco and Shi Pei-pu, a Peking opera singer. The play premiered on Broadway in 1988 and won the 1988 Tony Award for Best Play. In addition to this, it was a Pulitzer Prize for Drama finalist in 1989. David Henry Hwang, born August 11, 1957, is an American playwright, librettist, screenwriter, and theater professor at Columbia University in New York City. He has won 3 Obie Awards for his plays Fob, Golden Child, and Yellow Face. 3 of his works, M. Butterfly, Yellow Face, and Soft Power, have been finalists for the Pulitzer Prize for Drama. M. Butterfly. Written by David Henry Hwang. Characters: Renee Gallimard, Song Liling, Mark, Helga, M. Toulon, Comrade Chin, Renee and others. Date premiered: February 10, 1988. Place premiered: National Theatre, Washington, D.C. Original language: English. Subject: East-West cultural stereotypes. Genre: drama. Setting: A Paris prison, 1988, recollections of Beijing and Paris. Summary: the first act introduces the main character, Renee Gallimard, a civil servant attached to the French embassy in China. In a prison, Gallimard is serving a sentence for treason. Through a series of flashbacks and imagined conversations, Gallimard tells an audience his story about a woman that he loved and lost. He falls in love with a beautiful Chinese opera singer, Song Liling. Gallimard is unaware that all female roles in traditional Beijing opera were actually played by men, as women were banned from the stage. The first act ends with Gallimard returning to France in shame and living alone after he asks his wife, Helga, for a divorce, admitting to her that he's had a mistress. It is revealed in Act 2 that Song had been acting as a spy for the Chinese government, and she is actually a man who has disguised himself as a woman to seduce Gallimard and extract information from him. They stay together for 20 years until the truth is revealed, and Gallimard is convicted of treason and imprisoned. Unable to face the fact that his perfect woman is a man, he retreats deep within himself and his memories. The action of the play is depicted as his distorted recollection of the events surrounding their affair. In Act 3, Song reveals himself to the audience as a man, without makeup and dressed in men's clothing. Gallimard claims he only loved the idea of Butterfly, never Song himself. Gallimard throws Song and his clothing off the stage, but holds onto Butterfly's kimono. In Scene 3, the setting returns to Gallimard's prison cell, as he puts on makeup and Butterfly's wig and kimono. Then he stabs himself, committing suicide just as Butterfly does in the opera. Changes for the 2017 Broadway revival. Edit. For the Julie Taymor-directed revival in 2017, Hwang revisited the text to incorporate further information that had emerged about the Borsco case, and address intersectional identities. 11. Taymor and Hwang wanted their new approach to consider, present public discussion and awareness of non-binary genders, the growth of China as a superpower, and details about the true story, which were not available to Hwang when he wrote the first version. 12. Changes include: Song Liling initially presents as male to Gallimard, only to claim to be physically female but made to dress up as a man by her parents. Hwang noted in an interview that the surprise reveal that Song Liling is actually a man no longer carried the shock value it did in 1988, especially after The Crying Game used the same tactic only a few years later. 11. The play is changed to a 2-act structure. Citation needed. Act 1 ends with Song telling Gallimard that she is pregnant. This moment originally occurred during Act 2. Citation needed. Further information on how Song Liling managed to mislead Gallimard even while they were intimate. Citation needed. One reviewer said, "In this incarnation, we're not being seduced, but preached at." 13. Another said it was neither a critical nor a popular success, but an important, timely, and productive reconsideration of the play and its story in light of new acceptances of gender fluidity and the changing balance of power between Asia and the West. 14. The 2019 production at South Coast Repertory used the 2017 revival as its source material. Directed by Desdemona Chang, Lucas Verbrugge and Jake Manabat performed as leads. One reviewer said the story has taken on new resonance in an era shaped by the Me Too movement, China's geopolitical might and a more widespread understanding of gender identity issues. 1.5 Regarding the long-debated questions of Song and Gallimard's intimate relations, another reviewer said, Song's defiant explanation to an over-curious French judge struck me as Hwang wanting to put an end to the prying once and for all. 16. ## describes the interplay between the 1904 Madame Butterfly and 1988 M. Butterfly. Saying that Gallimard falls in love, not with a person, but an imagined stereotype. His Chinese lover, Song Liling, encourages this stereotype, playing the role of the Oriental woman as demure and submissive. Gallimard, who had thought of himself as the macho Pinkerton, husband of the beautiful and fragile Butterfly. 19 kbps described the latter as an inversion of the former. Here, it is the Occidental man who becomes the Butterfly, submissive, easily trapped, and ultimately destroyed. 20. John Gross called it a mess, intellectually speaking, but also very well worth seeing. Relevance to the LGBT community. Edit. In an interview with David Henry Hwang, the playwright states, "The lines between gay and straight become very blurred in this play, but I think he knows he's having an affair with a man. Therefore, on some level he is gay." 22. In a 2014 review for the Windy City Times, Jonathan Abarbanel states that Song Liling may be gay, but it's a secondary point raised only as a way by which Chinese government agents can control him. As an exploration of sexuality, it's about the divine androgyne who Song Liling may recognize and exploit, and which Gallimard certainly recognizes and embraces in the play's closing moments. 23. The Washington Blade refers to Gallimard as a gay man who couldn't be himself. He had to mask behind male bravado, cultural and religious dicta, and diplomatic constraints. But he was willing to overlook and deny everything in pursuit of love. 24. Hwang talked to several people with non-conforming gender identities to get better insight into the character of Song, but he ultimately stressed that the character is not transgender. He recognized how Song might be differently received by a modern audience more savvy about the wide spectrum of gender identity. 25. Ilka Saul writes, "The playwright uses the figure of the transvestite to lay bare the construction and performativity of gender in culture. Yet he stops short of questioning compulsory heterosexuality at its base, and thereby fails to use queer desire in order to open up interstices. Categories of thirdness in this tight homophobic structure." 26. In an article for Pride Source, Prout and Beer state, Gallimard is a man who thinks he is heterosexual, but is in fact a practicing homosexual for 20 years. Song takes on the role of a woman, but always self-identifies as a gay man, not a transgendered person. 27. Christian Lewis, when writing about the 2017 revival, wrote in the Huffington Post that, "This production does not explore any foray into non-binary or transgender identities, which is perhaps its one major flaw." Butterfly. Characters. René Gallimard is a 65-year-old former French diplomat. While serving in Beijing, he fell in love with Song Liling, who he believed to be a woman. The two maintained a relationship for 20 years. Song Liling is a male Peking opera singer who performs female roles. He plays into Gallimard's fantasy of a submissive Chinese woman and manipulates him into sharing classified documents with the Chinese Communist Party. Gallimard often refers to Song as Butterfly, referring to the opera Madame Butterfly. Mark is Gallimard's friend from school. He is a womanizer who boasts of cheating on his wife with 300 women over 12 years, and he encourages Gallimard to do the same. Comrade Chin is a member of the Chinese Communist Party. She is Song's contact in the party, the comrade to whom he passes classified documents. Manuel Toulon is the French ambassador to China and Gallimard's boss. Helga is Gallimard's wife. She is older than he is, and their marriage is one of convenience, not of passion. René is a young Danish student who comes to China to study Chinese and has a brief affair with Gallimard. In a prison on the outskirts of Paris, René Gallimard is serving a sentence for treason. It is 1988, and Gallimard introduces himself to his audience as a celebrity, a man who is known and laughed about all over the world. Though he embraces his status as an object of ridicule, Gallimard confesses that he has been searching desperately for a way to tell his story that will redeem its pathetic ending, reunite him with the woman he has lost, and teach those people hola at him to understand him. Gallimard tells his audience that he has loved the perfect woman. Through a series of flashbacks and imagined conversations, Gallimard tells audience his story. The narrative begins in 1960, when he is 39 years old. He is a junior diplomat living in Beijing, China, a tenuous situation, given the increasing extremism of the Chinese Communist Party. He is hapless, awkward, and unimpressive. Convinced no woman could ever love him, Gallimard has resigned himself to a passionless marriage of convenience with his wife, Helga. Attending a performance at the German ambassador's house one night, he meets a Chinese opera star named Song Liling. Song is performing the final scene from Giacomo Puccini's Madame Butterfly, playing the title heroine as she commits suicide after the white man she adores abandons her. Gallimard is moved by Song's feminine grace, and after the performance showers her with compliments. Gallimard tells Song he finds the opera's story beautiful, and Song tells him Madame Butterfly is an imperialist fantasy, a reflection of Westerners' perverse desire to dominate Asian people. Coolly but flirtatiously, Song invites Gallimard to come and watch her at the Peking Opera. She leaves Gallimard stunned, but intrigued. For several weeks, Song's invitation tugs at Gallimard. 4 weeks after meeting her, he finds the courage to attend one of her performances at the Peking Opera. After the show, he and Song walk along the streets of Beijing. She is sophisticated and confident, more like a liberated Western woman than the mild-mannered Asian woman he initially expected she would be. For 15 weeks after their initial meeting, Gallimard continues to attend Song's performances every week. Finally, after months of these encounters, Song invites Gallimard to her apartment. She seems anxious and flustered. She admits that she has never invited a man into her home, and that Gallimard's presence makes her nervous. Intrigued by Song's uncharacteristic vulnerability, and goaded by the memory of his womanizing friend Mark, Gallimard devises an experiment to test the limits of Song's pride. For weeks, he refrains from going to the Peking Opera or calling on Song. Finally, after 9 weeks of silence, she sends Gallimard a heartbroken letter that makes it clear she has lost all sense of dignity. Gallimard is ashamed at having treated Song so badly, and believes he will face divine punishment for his cruelty. That same day, however, the French ambassador to China, Manuel Toulon, informs Gallimard that he has been chosen for a major promotion. Stunned, it occurs to Gallimard that he is not being punished, but rewarded, for exercising his masculine power over a woman. Later that night, he declares his love for Song and the two begin an affair. As the relationship between Gallimard and Song develops, Song seems to fit perfectly into Gallimard's ideal of womanhood. She is modest, gentle, and adores Gallimard. He calls her Butterfly, a reference to the heroine of Puccini's opera. At work, Gallimard begins advising American military leaders who are beginning to wage a war against communists in Vietnam. He assures Toulon that American troops will be welcome in Vietnam, basing this prediction on impressions of the Oriental disposition he has gained from Song, who plays into all his assumptions about Asian people, their passivity, weakness, and admiration for the strength of Western nations. Though Gallimard seems to be living a charmed life, disaster is brewing. Song is not who she claims to be. It is revealed that she has been acting as a spy for the Chinese government, subtly coaxing military secrets out of Gallimard and telling them to Comrade Chin, a leader in the Red Guard, a communist paramilitary group. It is also revealed that, though she plays female roles in the Peking Opera, Song is actually a man. He has disguised himself as a woman to seduce Gallimard and extract information from him, and keeps his secret by making sure Gallimard never sees his naked body. Song and Gallimard carry on their affair for 20 years, throughout periods of political and personal turmoil. They are separated for 4 years after the Vietnam War takes a disastrous turn and Gallimard is transferred back to Paris. During his absence, the Chinese Communist Party becomes increasingly violent and extreme, and Song is sent to a forced labor camp to atone for his crimes of being an artist and a homosexual man. Gallimard leaves Helga, too obsessed with longing for his lover to participate in the ruse of their marriage any longer. Gallimard and Song are finally reunited after the Communist Party sends Song to Paris to resume the affair and the accompanying espionage. The two live in harmony for 15 years. Gallimard, understanding that Song is in trouble with the Communists, helps her access sensitive documents, which she passes on to the Chinese embassy. Eventually, though, Song and Gallimard are caught and charged with treason. Song's gender is exposed, making Gallimard a laughingstock throughout France, and Song turns on Gallimard in court, testifying against him to guarantee a pardon for himself. In his prison cell, Gallimard is visited by Song, dressed in men's clothing. He torments Gallimard, insisting Gallimard adores him. This is true. Gallimard has said in previous conversations with his visions of Song that he would forgive everything, if Song would only agree to come back and resume their life together. Song strips off his clothes and exposes his naked body, telling Gallimard it is time for him to confront the truth. Though Song expects this will be a moment of surrender for Gallimard, it actually turns Gallimard against him. Seeing Song for what he really is, Gallimard says, destroys the fantasy of butterfly that was all he ever really loved. Gallimard throws Song out of the prison cell, saying it is time for him to return to Butterfly. In the play's final scene, Gallimard dresses in a woman's kimono, wig, and makeup. Song's costume as Butterfly. He introduces himself to the audience as Renee Gallimard, also known as Madame Butterfly. Then, just as the heroine of Puccini's opera does, he commits suicide with a harakiri knife. As Gallimard lies dead, Song appears on stage smoking a cigarette and staring at Gallimard's fallen body. The opening moments of the play depict Orientalist fantasy in the making. The traditional Chinese music and clothing fulfills Western ideas of China as an ancient, exotic, and mysterious culture. Puccini's music represents a Westerner's misguided attempt to recreate that culture for the entertainment of other non-Asians like him, a practice that perpetuates and strengthens Orientalist stereotypes. When the Western music overwhelms the Chinese music, it evokes the long history of conflict between Asia and the Western nations that sought to exploit and dominate it.